This place allows you to look inside of yourself and see what kind of person you really are.
A place to go for help, a place to meet, a place to organize, a place to make friends.
Emmaus House has been great. It's like a home to me. It's where, basically my roots are, here at Emmaus House.
Emmaus House really provides a place where people can come and feel like they belong. It brings everyone together.
There's just so much love and so much warmth here. And as I've gotten to know some of the people who work here and who grew up here, and then some of the women and others who have come back to this place, it really is like a home.
Hope and hospitality in Peoplestown and beyond. And I think for most of the people in community that in this neighborhood, that really is what this place symbolizes.
Emmaus House, for over 3 decades, a beacon of hope for the underprivileged and underserved people in Atlanta. We invite you to join us to experience the continuing story of this exceptional place. In 1967, the Episcopal Diocese of Atlanta established Emmaus House in the Peoplestown neighborhood of Atlanta. The church realized that in order to serve those who most needed assistance, you must first become a neighbor who listens and learns. And in order to understand what assistance is needed, you must live among them and become a neighbor to those you serve.
I really didn't know anything about what life was like except as an observer in the inner city. And, so I just came and waited to see what happened.
Father Austin Ford became the first director of Emmaus House.
I moved in and was made welcome, became a part of the community.
And the community Father Ford found had long been neglected.
A lot of dilapidated housing and very few programs, very poor city services. The schools were on double session. There weren't enough books. There weren't any blackboards in some of the classrooms, all that sort of thing. And a lot of distress over social programs, the inadequacy of the welfare programs and so on. And those were the things that the church wanted to have some part in addressing. And people soon began to make it clear what they wanted. And one of the things they wanted was not to be told what they wanted.
And what the residents wanted was change, but many felt frustrated by the obstacles and abuse they found in a welfare system that was created to support them.
We were just welfare mothers, isolated mothers. Our families couldn't even come to visit us, and they would come to your house all times of night, all times of day, looking for men's clothes, looking for men's in your house and everything. We didn't have no certain time for a knock to come on the door, and that's what the caseworker.
When Father Ford invited Mrs. Matthews to a meeting of the Welfare Rights Organization held at Emmaus House, Mrs. Matthews and others like her were afraid to attend because they feared the loss of their government assistance. But Father Ford, they found out, could be persuasive.
I said, well, it can't get no worse with me than I said, I'm going to this meeting tonight. When I come on to this meeting, that was the turning point of my life. I had never heard that talk before, that poor people had a right to everything that everybody else said. I had never heard that talk.
Mrs. Matthews became an activist for the poor, leading demonstrations and twice running for Atlanta City Council. Along with Father Ford, she and others from Emmaus House were active in many civil rights demonstrations.
Well, we got involved in lots of them. Mrs. Matthews and the Welfare Rights Group organized marches and demonstrations at the Capitol. And I would get volunteers from the Poverty Rights Office to come and down to be a line of cars to pick people up and take them wherever. And there were lots of issues in the early days about the welfare recipients not being treated fairly by their caseworkers and being abused.
The activism and enthusiasm at Emmaus House has not been limited to the residents it serves. A team of dedicated volunteers has served throughout Emmaus House's history. Longtime volunteer Muriel Loki spent hundreds of hours at Emmaus House during its early days, setting up programs like the Poverty Rights Office, and getting involved with the effort to bring about social change.
So I remember hearing Father Ford say one time that bridges of understanding were built between the people who came here to volunteer and the people who lived in the neighborhood. We got to know each other.
Through Father Ford's leadership and resident input, Emmaus House developed programs to assist the community. Youth-focused activities have become a cornerstone of the mission.
The prime focus always was the children in the neighborhood. That was Father Ford's plan when he got here, to look after have programs for the children.
Columbus Ward began coming around in the early years as a child with his parents. He continues as a staff member to this day.
What I saw was a sincere people being concerned and caring and want to be a part of what was taking place in this neighborhood, and that you saw that from the people here, from the one that was in the leadership role, but also to the volunteers or the interns that were living here at that time. But I was able to pick that up right away through Father Ford and Sister Marie, some of the people that was kind of like in charge, and also there's some of the college students that was here as interns on staff, what they call it at the time, they actually call them staff members, that was really working with us one-on-one or directly, that was really, some of the people who came and volunteered that from other parts of the city, black and white both, that showed an interest in what we was doing and what was going on, taking place in the neighborhood.
Through his involvement in the youth group at Emmaus House, Columbus became more aware of the injustices his community faced.
But at the same time, if you wanted to really get involved with a lot of social justice type issues that was taking place, and it allowed you that opportunity to get involved that way too, because with the coalition building and groups that were meeting in and out of Emmaus House.
Father Ford, the volunteers, the welfare mothers, and the youth at Emmaus House recognized the need for social change in the community. Through the empowerment the residents received at Emmaus House, they were able to find their voice and call for change in their community. Much has changed in the time since Emmaus House was founded. Laws have changed, Atlanta has experienced tremendous growth, and the Peoplestown neighborhood has evolved. All of these changes present new challenges and opportunities for Emmaus House. Even with all the change, there is still a need for many of the programs started in the early days. One such continuing program is the Poverty Rights Office, which supplies free assistance with social services to the surrounding community.
The Poverty Rights is under the umbrella of Emmaus House. We've continued along the same lines as when we started. It's just some of the problems have changed. I think the thing that makes me very happy is that we serve the whole area. We're not a zip code agency. Our door is always open.
Well, what we do every day, always, is helping people get photo IDs, Georgia IDs, and birth certificates. And part of what keeps striking me about that is that if you're poor and you don't own property and stuff, then you're not really a person unless you can produce the right papers.
I call it getting people legal.
And so I'm just amazed continually at how the Poverty Rights Office responds to individuals on a case-by-case basis, not making assumptions, not having any idea what they may need, and yet still being able to really help them in whatever ways.
It's a place they can come and feel safe. I've had some people that just come and sit there because they feel safe there.
Other services are provided by the staff and volunteers at Emmaus House. Meals are included in as many activities as possible for participants of all ages. A literacy program for adults and an after-school program for kids bring much-needed educational resources to the neighborhood.
We continue to take the bus down to Reedsville Prison so that family members can visit men who are incarcerated there. That began because Reedsville was one of the prisons that was really underserved by public transportation. And so that was a niche for Emmaus House to step in and say, all right, that's something tangible and practical that we can provide.
Youth-focused programs continue to be an important part of the work at Emmaus House. Summertime and Christmas really revolve around the kids.
And then at the end of the summer, we take all of the kids up to Camp Michael in North Georgia. And for a lot of those kids, it's the first time they've slept in a cabin, first time they've heard crickets at night.
You know, at camp, you're surrounded by creeks and stuff. So they would go down there and, you know, they were kind of freaked out by not knowing what really was in that creek, what was going on. And they'd ask questions like, is there sharks in there? What about snakes? And stuff like that. And it was just, you could tell they were totally out of their element, but they thought it was so much fun.
Christmas is a really wonderful time around Emmaus House. It's a big piece of the tradition here. Lots of decorations, special services, and then in terms of worship services. The biggest piece happens on Christmas Eve morning, and we have anywhere from 400 to 600 kids who begin lining up early in the morning, even if it's really cold out, and wait for a visit with St. Nicholas or Mrs. Claus. We have hot chocolate and donuts for every child who comes, and then around the campus in the different buildings, we have entertainment set up so that one group of kids might be in here listening to a show with a puppeteer or doing some Christmas caroling together. Another group of kids might be in Ezra Hall with somebody who's doing some storytelling. And part of what that does is help the kids stay busy while they're waiting to see Mr. or Mrs. Claus. It's a great time of fellowship. It's a time when a lot of the summer program teachers come back and serve hot chocolate so that you see kids for the first time in the midst of the school year and can renew acquaintances that had gotten developed over the summer and through the years in the summer program. It's a time when volunteers come and help wrap presents, help stuff stockings. We have a lot of partners from different parishes around the diocese, and they're always looking for more of people who can provide a stocking full of small gifts and school supplies, practical things that each of the kids get when they see Mr. or Mrs. Claus. They get a stocking full of gifts and also a gift for each child.
Emmaus House has directly addressed the needs of its community for over 30 years through serving children, seniors, and families.
We really are continuing to be in a rebuilding period. I mean, building on much of the past, but also trying to help people catch a vision for what the present and the future are about. Emmaus House has always been about looking at the community and saying, who are some people who may not be able to speak for themselves? Or if they've been trying to speak for themselves, who's not being heard well? And finding some ways to empower them to be heard, both side by side with people, but letting their own voices be heard just directly as well.
The community arts program at Emmaus House is serving as a way to enrich the spirit as well as the wallet. Adults and children are coming to Emmaus House to learn new crafts, some of which are sold to generate income for the residents.
And we also hired an art director. We will be doing weaving and quilting and painting, and we'll be doing photography, probably digital photography, and we have a whole wide range of offerings at this center here. It's my belief that when people are engaged in the creative process, they are in the closest contact that they can have with God. That what it means to be in the image of God is to, basically it means to create. It doesn't mean we look like God, but rather that God has given us these creative gifts. And so when we pull out these creative gifts, it changes lives, it changes communities, it changes individual people. It just makes a tremendous difference. And so that's why we wanted to come do this work at Emmaus House. And the thing I would say is art is not just about pretty things. Art really is about soul.
So which one's your favorite, Thaddeus?
He loves it all. But it's great because we've got a kiln, we've got 2 electric wheels in here, and we've got a place to do some hand building, and we hope to really expand the art program fairly soon to include drawing and painting and printmaking. So it'd be great. After school programs and working with the senior citizens too. It'll be very exciting.
One of the things that's always been true about Emmaus House is that the particular kind of work that was happening in a given era of Emmaus House's life depended on what was going on in the wider world around Emmaus House. So the specifics have changed from season to season or era to era. But those themes of trying to provide hope for people, trying to provide hospitality, of being a place where anybody in this community was made to feel welcome when they came, all of those sort of underlying streams have been the same. It's been a long time dream, both of Emmaus House and of key people in this community, to have Emmaus House and others be able to create a really comprehensive and very affordable child care program here in the neighborhood. We've got the land, we've got some seed money. What we're going to have to find is the ongoing operations money.
The work of Emmaus House continues to evolve and reflect the needs of its community. Living and working within the community has allowed the staff, volunteers, seminarians, and interns to direct their efforts toward the real day-to-day needs of those they serve.
There are so many different ways that people can partner with us, and we're really excited about those possibilities. One of the simplest is just pick up the phone or drop us a note, let us know that you're interested. Come down for a visit. That's probably one of the first and most important first steps, is to come see what we do firsthand. Come worship with us on a Sunday morning. Just begin to see sort of up close and personal what it is that happens here. There are so many different places that people can plug in. You know, everything from coming to help answer the phones in the office or doing data entry for us, to helping clean out a fish pond, or helping a child in the neighborhood learn how to throw a pot, or helping one of the young men in the neighborhood learn how to do bowl turning enough that he can begin to generate some income for himself. I mean, it really does run a gamut.
We welcome you to join us in our mission to provide hope and hospitality in Peoplestown and beyond. Please contact us for more information on how you can get involved.